Hey folks, it's Kary Oberbrunner. I am with Sarah Grandstaff today. We are gonna light some stuff up here. So Sarah, first of all, thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited.
Well, listen, lots of stuff when I think about you. So first of all, tell people a little bit of background, and before we do that, we're gonna talk about unhackable teams. So
Yeah.
I know people listen to the first few seconds of the video and then they're like, should I listen? They absolutely should. What is Unhackable Teams? Then we'll learn a little bit more about you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Unhackable Teams is really inspired by your book, Unhackable. And I'm so grateful that I have an opportunity to really explore this topic more and write a book about it because I read Unhackable when it came out in October of 2020. And, we were all dealing with we didn't think the pandemic was going to go on quite as long as it had at that point. And I was managing a new team, and some of the things that had worked in terms of keeping people focused and motivated just were not working anymore for a lot
Mm,
of great reasons that we all know about. But the thing that really drove me to want to keep diving into Unhackable is it really gave me some tools to think about, why people weren't performing in the same way. And, how could I, with all the, uncertainties going on,
mm.
get a team into flow, and I just was, grateful to have those tools. And so now I've been able to really kind of, now that we've kind of moved past that and we're 2 years in, I want to make sure that some of those lessons that were learned don't just kind of go away with the
Yes.
pandemic, because I start to see that in the marketplace already. Like, people are already, worried about, where people are working from, and people are kind of falling back into their old micromanaging, for lack of a better term. And there's just a better way to do all of the things that we're doing to keep people motivated and engaged. And I will actually spoil the whole thing, because on the very first page of Unhackable Teams, it says, who do you think is hacking your team? And the answer is you. And so there are some really practical things people can do to, make sure that that isn't happening. And so I love the 30-day format for people to really reflect. And it's really about closing the gap from just managing to inspiring meaningful performance. And, that means something different for everyone, especially these days.
That is so good. And you're someone who speaks with real credibility because it's easy to write a book and say, hey, in a ideal world, we would do this, this, and this. But you had to manage a team through the pandemic. You're leading teams now. What do you think are some of the biggest hacking things that happen? I get it that it's us, but do you
Yeah.
feel like there's so you said micromanaging. What else do you think's hacking teams?
I think one of the big things is, we have so many tools at our disposal right now. We have a lot of different ways to communicate. We have a lot of different platforms, CRMs, all kinds of technology out there. And I think one of the things is we aren't necessarily always using those as efficiently as possible. And things
Mhm.
start to kind of fall through the cracks a little bit. And one of the things I was really thinking about when I was thinking about, hey, going to this conference again this year, and knowing that there was a little bit more of a Web3 focus, I thought,
Yes.
okay, well, I'm going to talk about something very human. How does that fit into this? And I think one of the things is we have to really make sure that we're allowing machines and tools and computers to do the things that they do best, so that we can allow our teams to do the things that they do best, which is
Interesting.
being creative and problem solving, and being able to really master skills and relate to people. And so that kind of sounds like, when you first say it, like a lot of jargon, but I actually broke it down to a colleague the other day, and I think it made a lot of sense. So she was working for a company that just spent a lot of money on a brand new CRM platform. And
Okay.
there's always hesitancy when you roll out new technology, but what she noticed is she was doing a lot of things to make sure that people were accurately putting information into this system so they could get the data out of it. But because they were nervous about it, they were still managing things on a spreadsheet at the same time. So when they
Mhm.
were devaluing this system that they had just spent all this money in, but they were really, just wasting a lot of time that could be freed up for, teams to work on strategy and work
Interesting.
on development and growth and all of those things. So that's how I really think it fits in.
So basically, you're saying that let the machines do what they're supposed to do, let the humans do what they're supposed to do. And I know that sounds almost like Jetsons for us who grew up in the whatever decades, but it honestly is happening. There are new things called cobots. There are senior citizen homes that are, and some people will be grieved by this. Other people will say, well, that's good. But there are senior citizen homes right now that are saying, look, our residents are not getting visited enough. So we're going to have them have a robot and for companionship. And I think at first we're like, whoa, that's crazy. And yet is it filling a need? And I mean, these are things where now I think we're going to be working alongside robots. And so I think you're onto something. What can't we abdicate toward technology? Is there like feelings or empathy, or what can humans only do?
Yeah, I think really, that connection piece of it. So even I'm thinking about the example that you have and instead of, having the robots connect, with people in these homes, we should really be, using them to take tasks off our plate so we can go back and, visit our families
Interesting.
and do those things. But I think, even just, kind of going back to managing teams, I think, we maybe rely on the technology a little bit too much for connection. And it can definitely help us, right? Like a quick text here or there checking in. I mean, those things are wonderful, but it doesn't replace really, developing a relationship with that person so that you can learn what their talents are. Because I think a lot of times we have, really wonderful people on our teams, but they slip through the cracks because we're not really using them to their full talent potential. We've stuck them in a role that we needed to fill at the time, and we've sort of left them there without, really learning more about them and how they could,
Wow.
contribute at an even higher level.
See, that's really good. I think that first of all, everybody, you need to follow Sarah. You need to get ready for her book because I've been so impressed with Sarah that I actually have hired her to be a consultant with us because I think she leads teams so well, and she's come on and helped our team improve. So even in your little time helping our company, what have we learned? We've learned our roles, and that's even something because with a virtual company you don't realize like, oh wait, so and so is going on vacation, there's no one else who even knows what he or she does, and then they're gone and you have this like scramble thing. So documenting roles, knowing what people are doing. And then there were some times where one person was doing something that they really didn't like, just what you're saying, and yet this other person loves it, but there's no communication to know like, why don't we swap that task? So talk to us about these tools because I know there's Colby, there's Myers-Briggs, there's DISC. How do you determine team connection? How do you develop that?
Yeah, and I think, all those tools are wonderful to kind of, have a baseline. But then I think it really goes down to, having very, deliberate conversations to learn about people. And I think they have to be both formal and informal,
Mm,
right? So, there are definitely times where, you need to talk about performance and make sure that people are going through the onboarding and all of those things, but those things are not enough, right? I think a lot of the discovery process comes in having really informal time to meet with people.
yes.
So, that could be as simple as, having a 30-minute coffee once a week, where people are free to talk about things that aren't just work related, so that you're able to kind of get to know people a little bit
That's
better.
good. That's
It could be even, I learned something about, one of my team members the other day on LinkedIn that I didn't even know they were working on. And I just thought, well, shame on me. But, I immediately picked up the phone and said, oh my gosh, this is so amazing, that you're working on this. Tell me more about it. And, it really kind of inspired me to think a little bit about, what could they maybe be doing differently on my team, so that they can, really harness those talents a little bit more. So, the work obviously has to be done, but I think there's also still time for, connection, and to, let people try things that are outside of their normal role, so that they can, learn what they are good at. And I think that inspires confidence. And I think a lot of times managers are afraid of that because, maybe that means, they really belong in a different part of the company, or maybe they will leave and go do something else. But I also think the other side of that coin is, if you are really investing in people, they're going to invest back. And really, I think that's part of getting into flow a little bit too, is getting to try new things and not being afraid to fail at them, right? Because we're not going to get better if we don't learn what does and doesn't work. And so I think we're just trying so hard to be perfect on every task and every project. And that doesn't leave a lot of room for people to develop and, use their creativity.
I love that. So you read the book Unhackable.
Yes.
You're doing what I am so glad you're doing, and that's what other people are doing. But we have something called Unhackable Press, where a woman named Michelle Weidenbrenner wrote a book called Unhackable Moms.
Yes.
So she's taken like the base and made it for moms of addicted loved ones. We have Maureen Sharphouse, who wrote Unhackable Soul, who's helping people with chronic illness. We have Unhackable Force, which is, Daphne and Lisa and Deborah and Nikki, and they're talking all about like women who are unhackable. And now you're taking Unhackable Teams. I am so happy that you're giving so much more life to this book. So even some of your strategies that we've started using on our team, we do this thing called the core value train, where on a virtual company, we basically catch someone being good. And that's a practical idea. We even have this one lady named Tanisha who does a weekly recap, where on Fridays, she almost like runs a little show with announcements. How important is it for corporations to get outside the box and really, like you said, experiment and give their people permission to do these things?
Yeah, I think it's so important. And, shout out to Tanisha, because, she does an amazing job with those. And it really came from her not being afraid to speak up about something that she felt was missing. And then when the team was able to kind of come together and kind of talk about, what would fill that communication gap, this idea to really, put out a weekly announcement that came out in both video and written form for people to, connect with information in a different way was just an amazing thing to see develop. So I think, taking that out to, every corporation is, making sure you're listening to your employees, because, at the top, we don't have to solve for everything, right? Yeah. Like sometimes our employees have the best ideas, and, if they are, bringing that forward in an environment that feels very safe for them to share, and they're allowed to collaborate and be part of the problem solving, then, not only are you able to, recognize them, but you're able to really, give them something in a format that they can use and, will move the business forward. So I think thank you for sharing that one again, because that's just a really powerful example.
I think also that everyone wants to be, I think, recognized and compensated well. And I feel like when a company says, look, we're going to start empowering our people to make decisions, we're going to give them authority, and we're going to give them responsibility, what it does is it frees up the visionary or the CEO or the president, whoever runs the company. It frees them up to spend time on bigger deals, and it allows the team to show their value. And therefore, if it's led by a ethical, generous person, I think the entire team wins. You get what I'm saying? So like recently, even yesterday, I was talking to a guy on our team named Jeff, and I was tempted to go into the command and control, and here's how you figure it out. And then I said, Jeff, here's my goals. 1, 2, 3, 4. You go make it happen and do it however you want. And so what do you think that does for people when they are given autonomy? Is that an element of being unhackable in your team?
No, it absolutely is. And I think without that element, you're really never going to move forward in your development. And I actually read an article yesterday from Inc. magazine, and it was talking about, how Google kind of identifies future leaders. And they actually, have done some testing about, teenagers and how can they identify if a teenager is a future leader. And I don't think this will be a shock for, anyone who's, read Unhackable or is in the know, but one of the leading indicators is how free those teenagers are in their own lives by their parents to make their own decisions and experiment and have some autonomy.
Wow.
And so I think it starts early, right? So I'm a mom too, and that gave me some things to think about. But I think that's the perfect example. So yeah, that's an article on Inc. magazine from yesterday. So
I love it. Okay, awesome. So now let's talk about conference, because you came. I was shocked to learn this, that you came in 2019 on your own dime, even though you worked at a publishing company. You said, I want to learn, I want to grow. You came to that conference in 2019. Give us the experience, because there's a lot of people who will watch this who maybe haven't gone to Igniting Souls conference. They've heard about it. Why did you come? What did you learn? Why have you come back?
Oh, this is one of my favorite questions. I love talking about this. So, I had become familiar with Igniting Souls and was just really curious, to be honest, about, how people were, really marketing their own messages and, getting their books out and not doing it a traditional way. And I thought, well, I just really want to go and learn about this. And I had realized about that time that I hadn't really done a vacation or, a retreat or a conference that wasn't work related since my kids had been born. So I told my family, and I'm very blessed that they are very supportive, that I was going to go to Ohio. Yes. And they thought, oh my gosh, okay. But I had made friends before I even left the airport, right? So people who come to the conference are so passionate about their messages and about their stories. And what it really did for me is sometimes you have to, put yourself in a new environment and be vulnerable and kind of learn new things. And just there was so much energy with people, wanting to build their own businesses and, write books and really be there for their own growth and development. And I was just so impressed. And like I said, I met people at the airport. I met people in the, shuttle to the hotel. I had new friends to go out to dinner with on the very first night. And I thought, well, this is, kind of crazy.
Yeah.
I think, once you've been around the community and around the tribe and, have been to the conference and are just really open to going and learning. And I'm very excited about this year's conference because, the future is changing rapidly, whether we're ready for it or not. And I think to be able to go and learn from people who, are kind of, leading that charge and determine, what our role is in that going forward is just such an exciting opportunity. And so I invite you all to come and meet me. And I really hope to see you in October.
And it's cool. This year, for the first time ever, we said we're going to have breakout tracks that represent 5 elements. We call it wise authors, Web3. And if people are like, what the heck is Web3? Web3 is everything from virtual reality to augmented reality to 5G to crypto to metaverse. I mean, NFTs, everything in that whole world that is shifting, that we're going from a physical world to a, some would say, a frigital world or a phygital world, like the blending of physical and digital. But it's really saying, look, two worlds are colliding. And as an author, entrepreneur, coach, speaker, you have to change the way you're doing things. If you think that business is going to remain, it's kind of like someone saying back in the 90s, hey, I don't need a website. I have the yellow pages. You know, that worked for about 3-4 years. And then all of a sudden you're obsolete. So we are saying, look, rather than us reacting, we're going to be proactive. And like we brought in some amazing people, people who are running blockchain labs, to TikTok experts, to EOS presidents and CEOs, entrepreneur operating system. I mean, it is like I'm going to geek out of all the people who are coming. But to finish the tracks, Web3 influencer, soul on fire, entrepreneur, and author. And really all those 5 tracks are going to be fantastic. If people get VIP tickets, they'll get recordings. So if they're like, oh my gosh, I can't choose, they can flip between tracks. What are you most looking forward to learning here as we wrap up?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I want to put a little shout out to Dublin, Ohio, too. If people are thinking, what, Ohio? It's so cool. And there's so many fun things to do. So
Yes.
keep that in mind if you're looking for a little getaway. But I'm really excited to, again, connect with people who want to get their message out and, join the Web3 track. And like I said, I think learning about it and being on the front end of it allows us to make sure we do bring our humanity to it. And so, I'm excited to find out, how we can really make that work for us and, how that factors in going forward. And there's just so many amazing speakers coming, and it's going to be very hard, I think, to choose, which sessions to go to, but I'm looking forward to all of it.
Yeah. Our presenters are 18 to 80, Dubai to Canada to US. I mean, this is a very, we even have a woman named Fatima from Spain, who's a 26-year-old metaverse architect. I mean, this is like amazing. And for less than $300, folks, if I'm pushing this, I am pushing this. Why? Because I know that here's what's going to happen. Your kids or grandkids or nephew or nieces are going to get their diploma very soon, and it's going to be issued as a digital collectible. And you're going to be like, what the heck? And really what it is it's a non-fungible token. You're going to start seeing that banking is changing. You're going to start seeing that on Facebook, oh, they have this new thing called digital collectible where you're supposed to put things. Wait, you don't have any. Like, there's people now doing med school, metaverse surgeries, so that if they mess up or when they mess up, it's not on real people. I mean, this is where I think people don't realize that. They think it's just a video game, but it's literally changing all industries. Mm-hmm. And you can either be someone who is way behind and reacting, or you can say, you know what, I'm going to actually jump in and be a leader. And by the way, we all are learning. I don't know anyone who knows the Web3 thing perfectly. So, Sarah, thank you for being here. I know we're so excited about your book. I've been a beneficiary of your amazing consulting. Dana, your super fan here, says, let's go, Sarah. And I know you've built relationships with Dana and Sarah McDermott. And I mean, it's just fantastic. These are some of the coolest people. And by the way, folks, like, there's no outsiders. Just like Sarah said, it's not like these cliques where you're like, oh my gosh, they've been around for 4 years, I can't break in. Everybody's at these tables, even virtually. We have a virtual experience that's going to be amazing. And you're right, Dublin is one of the top rated places in the country too. So thanks for being here, Sarah. Thanks for adding so much to my life. And I appreciate all you're doing.
Thank you so much.
All right. Take care, everybody. Get your ticket right now. And Ricky, thanks for